Okay, we continue with our series of selections from the HaChaim Parshas HaShavua, and this series is dedicated lirfua Ariela, Rína, Bat Esther, betושח Chole Yisrael. As you see from the title of the of today's installment of this series, I'm quite excited. The HaChaim was a gadol b'Yisrael in his time, and he was, very multifaceted. He was a parshan, as you've seen, how he learns the Chumash and tries to understand it in its own terms and make sense out of every word. He was a mekubal, as you've also seen, and he was a philosopher, as you've also seen. But now you're going to see another side of himself. He's a posek. He wrote Sfarim in Psak Halach, like the pre-Torah. And he was a lamdin. He also wrote the Rishon LeZion on Mishnayos. He engaged very much in halacha, and Talmudic learning also. And you're going to see that side of him today, and I'm very excited about it because he's also going to deal with yeshiva charade. The annual yeshiva shahak that you have on Parshas Toldos. He has his own very, very viable solution to classical questions that are raised in circles that engage in halacha and in LOMDUS, in connection to biblical events, as you will see. All right, so let's just go through the Pashup shot issues, and then we'll get into his divrei halacha that, again, in the unique HaChaim style, just like you've seen. He will synthesize parshanut with Kabbalah, like raise questions of extra words in a pasuk or seemingly inaccurate words, and sometimes solve the problem with Kabbalah, blending Kabbalah with parshanut. So you're going to see how he blends parshanut with, call it halacha, LOMDUS. So let's just read through, the famous event, pivotal event of Yaakov Avinu taking advantage of Esav's, plight and getting the birthright, the bechira, out of it. So, Esav, we don't have to read. Esav comes from the field and he's tired, right? And he demands for Yaakov to just chug it down his throat. Okay, but let's just go more into the nuance of the transaction, the deal. How it says, Yaakov says a very nuanced statement, and we have to, break apart, the words. From Yaakov, Michra Kayom, sell like today, as Bechoros for your birthright, like today, which is a question a lot of them first feel. So just sell your birthright, sell like today. So Rashi says, it should be clear as day. Okay, the HaChaim has something even more pashut and more lomdish at the same time. So sell like today, your birthright to me. Esau says, I'm about to die. Why do I need the birthright? Just say, yes, I'll sell it. Why the dramatics? I'm about to die. Why do I need this bechora? What's the dramatics? I'm about to die. Okay, I'm selling it. What's that all about? Just say, yes, I agree. Vayomer Yaakov says, Hishava li kayom, swear it to me today. Right? So again, you have the kayom, which Hidor Chaim doesn't actually explain this, the second kayom, but I think the way he explains Hishava li will make it quite apparent what it means. But the obvious, there's two obvious questions here. So Yaakov says, swear to me like today. And he sold the birthright to Yaakov. What's the whole shvua necessary for? Number one, why do you need a shvua? You have to make a shvua when you make a sale. What do you need the shvua for? What's the oath for? A. B, what's the actual lashon of hishava li? Right? And truly, we could also ask, what is kayom, doing here also? Now, swear it to me. Swear. If you want a shvua for whatever reason, we still have to understand why. Right? But also shava li, right, to me, like today, and he takes the oath, Vayim Kars Yaakov, and he sells his bechor to Yaakov. Right? So these are the questions that the HaChaim wants to deal with. Just in Pasha Pshat, to make sense out of all the words, that there should not be a single extra word here or any word that's lavdafka. Okay. So now the HaChaim steers right into the big yeshiva charade that we have on this whole thing between Yaakov and Esau. Right, a person cannot sell something that either does not yet exist, right? Like the fruits of his tree that haven't grown yet, or alternatively, same problem, say they doesn't own yet. Like, I'm going to sell you something else that I will yet acquire. I'm selling it to you from now. So they're both equally a problem of ein adam makne davar shelo ba la'olam, because whatever you want to sell, it has to exist, and you have to be in possession of it now, right? Both issues of it, eino ba'olam or not yet in your reshus, are equally the same problem of ein adam makne davar shelo ba la'olam. Makes it the problem is that it doesn't exist at all, right? Although when it will exist, it will be yours, like it's the fruit that will grow on your trees, right? Peros dekel. Right, or alternatively, what I will yet acquire, or Ariat Mikudeshi Lachar Shet Gayer. A guy walks up to a woman and says, "You are now Mikudesh to me for after I be convert. Yeah, convert first. You're not Jewish yet, right? It's a davar shelo ba la'olam, right? It has to be exist, and it has to be in your possession, right? So everyone asks, Esau selling his bechara, right? It's a davar shelo ba la'olam. Yitzchak Avinu is still alive. So it doesn't exist yet for him to sell. It has not come into his domain for him to sell. That is the classical yeshivish question that everyone deals with, right? And there really is no good answer except the HaChaim's answer, right? All right, so I'll say it in the order of the HaChaim, right? The way he says it, but you could invert the order depending on your company at the table. You hack around with them. But so the HaChaim, comes up with a brilliant answer, right? So there's halacha, it's in the Bamitzia Daf Tet Zayin, and it's in Choshen Mishpat, Reishut Av Sif Beis, right? A poor hunter or fisherman, he's got nothing, and he needs money now. He's really, he needs to make payments, he needs to feed his family. So seemingly it's a din drabanan, it's a din drabanan, right? That that Chazal intervened as they're allowed to do for Tikkun Olam, and they're allowed to intervene in general, make takonas. That's part of their authorities, from that the Torah granted them. But they have special authorities on manipulating monetary matters. That's the halach of Hefker, Bezdin Haya Hefker. They can manipulate money. They have a special koach there. Aside from their general koach of, making takanot that we have to abide by. So there is a halacha that a person who really is hard up, like the hard up fisherman, the hard up hunter, he could sell in advance mashatale mitsudasi hayom, right? What my traps will trap, whether it's my net, the fish that will be in my net in course of today, or whatever, if he's hunting other, wild game, whatever my trap will, catch today, he could sell that in advance to get a cash advance on all that game that he hasn't caught yet, or all that fish he hasn't fished yet, because to support his family, right? So that's a halacha that and seemingly it's just a din d'rabbanan, but the rabbis have the koach to intervene and make it valid. They have that authority. It's a din of kedei chayav. So now it's very interesting, so he brings what the poskim say, that which we say hayom today, it doesn't mean literally, it doesn't have to literally mean today, in the literal sense. It means, short term, what he needs to support himself. Chazal did not intervene to say, and now everything my trap, my nets will get in course of the month, I'm selling to you today and take a big cash advance. No. It's only, a small amount, kedei chayav, just to get him over this hump, because he needs to survive. He's got to feed his family, and that's it. So, hayom is just the best example that the guy just has to make it through the day. But the day lav dafka means kedei chayev, right? So says the HaChaim, brilliant, right? Says, Michra, let's read the Lashon. So Esav comes and he's dead tired, right? That's the whole, the Torah didn't say it for nothing. Yaakov sees the guy, he is really dead tired, vuayef, right? So, and he's asking for this. So, Yaakov says, Michra kayom, like the din of Mashit Talem Mitsudasi Hayom, kayom, like today. Literally, like today, like the halacha of Masha Talib Tsudasi Hayom, doesn't have to be literally today, but like that halacha of Hayom, right? That you are in distress, right? And you think you're going to die. Oh, so Chazal intervened in that scenario. That's halacha of Masha Talib Tsudasi Hayom, where you need short term to save your life. That's your situation, right? Right? So sell like that halacha of kayom, of hayom, mashitam zas hayom, as bechoras chali, right? Because now the sale will work because your life is in jeopardy. And for that, Chazal intervened and allowed Adam to be makne, davar shelo bala olam, like the fisherman selling in advance the fish he hasn't caught yet, right? So Chazal empowered that, to save the fisherman's life. So that's your situation. So you could sell the bechor that hasn't been bala olam yet, right? Because your life's in jeopardy. So Esav is actually saying a LOMDUS response why he totally agrees with Yaakov. It says, Vayomer Esav, they say, Hine anochi holech lamos, v'lama zeli bechor. You're right, I'm about to die, meaning, and hence the halacha of Michra Kayom, right? Of Mashitam Zasayom kicks in. So what do I need the Bechorah? I'm selling it, and the sale will be valid because my life is in jeopardy. And Chazal allow to be makne, davar shelo bala olam in this instance. Right? So Vayomer Yaakov, so Yaakov says, Ishavali, swear to me, right? So why is the shvua necessary? So first, I'm not going in the exact, or actually I am going in the order. The HaChaim say he actually negates. The HaChaim, his lum, even though it's not necessary right now for Parshanut, he shows his koach in LOMDUS and halacha and psak, right? And he negates what's brought down. I remember it as a Chuvas Radvaz, but I see the HaChaim also saw it in a Chuvas Rivash, that there were those who want to say from this story that if you back up with a shvua, a sale of a davar shelo bala olam, it'll work. And they want to suggest that's why Yaakov wanted the shvua. That would be the solution for the problem of davar shelo bala olam. And the HaChaim negates it, totally negates it, says, as does the Rivash, as does the Radvaz, as I remember. They negate it, he brings that down, that it's not true. And they say this in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the son of the Rosh. It's not an authentic tshuva. Right? Take a look. He weighs in that a shvua would not supplement the chisaron of davar shelo bala olam. Look, first, for sure, if it's a chisaron ma'asa kinyan, but he says over here, that even if you want to learn that the chisaron is a chisaron of smichus das, the shvua doesn't give him smichus das because he made an oath. Doesn't necessarily mean that therefore the two sides take the deal more seriously. An oath is oath l'chud, smichus das, what's a realistic expectation l'chud, right? That's if you hold that the whole chisar is in smichus das. But I will add parenthetically to what the HaChaim is saying that he's speaking at great length. Even the chisar is smichus das, making sure it doesn't make smichus das. But if the chisar is in the ma'isa kinyan, then for sure shvua doesn't help, right? Throw it out to the yeshiva light at your table. Right, Art School doesn't talk about this anyway. So, Kitzer, right? So, so after weighing, so the shvua is not to back up the kinyan. The solution to the big problem of is the fact that Esav's life is in jeopardy, and in that case, there's the din of mashitam tzasi hayom, and that's what Yaakov says, mechor kayom. Like the halach of Hayom, they allow to do something kedei chayav, something short term for survival, and that's your situation, which Esav affirms. Yes, I need this to save my life. And that's why the sale is valid. What's the shvua for? Because there's another shortcoming in Hilchos Kinyanim. There are certain things that do not have no mass, that cannot be sold. It's not shaykh to the Gidrei Kinyan. It's not something that could be sold. Right? Like, I want to sell you the scent of my fruit, not the fruit. I keep the fruit, 100% I keep the fruit. I want to sell you the reach of the pears, just the smell of the fruit, and that's nothing. It's a davar she'ein bo mamish, right? Davar she'ein bo mamish is not sellable. It's not something, something that sells has to be physical and take up and have mass. It has to be a tangible object. You cannot sell something intangible, okay? This Bechorah included things that are intangible, right? Like kahuna, right? Being a kohen, right? That's something that takes up mass. It's the honor and the privilege to serve God, right? As a kohen, the honor and the privilege. These are not things that take up mass. It's not covet. Is not a tangible object. It feels great and people pay a lot of money for it, but it's not a tangible object that can be sold, right? So all the covet, be the physical covet that you get and the spiritual covet that you get, the covet of the kahuna, right? The status of kahuna, it's not a davar sheyesh bo mamash that could be nikna, right? So what's the remedy for that? So shvua is chala davar sheyesh bo mamash. Right, a shvua as opposed to a neder, or even a neder, which is an isser chefza. You can only make a neder, a konam on a davar sheish bo mamish. Right, a shvua is chal on davar she'ein bo mamish. Right, you could make a shvua regarding something that's intangible, like to swear to not sleep. Right, that sleep is usher on you. You can do that b'derech shvua, even though sleep is davar she'ein bo mamish. Right, can't make a neder not to sleep. Because a neder, even a neder, let alone a kinyan, has to be chal on a davar sheyesh bo mamish. The only way, for the big lamdonim in the crowd, for those that, is there a case where there could be a neder not to sleep? Yes, if you put the isra on your eyes, the guy would say the konam is on his eyes, konam einai, chas v'shalom, right? The guy would say put the neder would be on the tangible, his eyeballs. Okay, but a shvua, you can make a shvua not to sleep. Right, and it would work, right? If it's a realistic shvua, it'll work. Just if you make an unrealistic demand, you'll never sleep. You get malchus mili for shvua shav, for swearing in vain, because that's impossible, right? So it's a shvua shav, right? And if it's for a limited amount of time, it will be a legitimate shvua spitui. A shvua is chal on a davar she'ein bo mamish, right? So you could do like this, right? You could have Esav swear that he will not act as a kohen. He will not be a kohen. He is bowing out from the kahuna. So it's not a physical object to be sold, but you could get him to swear that he won't be a kohen. He will not conduct himself as a kohen. He is bowing out. Right? It's a shvua. Right? So brilliant. So the shvua is for the davar she'ein bo mamish. Right? So because a shvua is called davar she'ein bo mamish. So but a shvua is a commitment. You can make heter shvua, like you make heter nedarim. Hishavali, your shvua is on my das. Kayom, even though HaChaim doesn't address Kayom, but my das as it is today, my das that I have in the present, so Kayom would be supplementing the li. Hishavali, swear to me, not just swear to me, because Esav could always go in front of a bezdin and say, when I swore I wouldn't be a Kohen, that I'm bowing out from the kahuna, I would not conduct myself as a Kohen. I thought it was on this and this. No. Your shvua is on my das, and since it's on my das, the way lefi what I think, you can't make heter shvua anymore. That's why he shavali like my das as it is today. That's al das. That is what you were swearing, and that way the kinyan backed up by shvua, the kinyan on the bechorah, and that works because Esav's life was in jeopardy, and for that, to save a life, short term. Right, like the din of Hayom, short term, right? So for that's what supplemented the problem of davar lo ba la oila, right? But on the davar she'ein bo mamish, what supplemented the problem and did away with the problem was the shvua, And with this, the HaChaim showed off his koach in halacha and in LOMDUS, and synthesized it with his Parshas to make this beautiful, pshat, this pilpul that fits in the pshat of the words like a glove, and the made all the divrei Torah be a zchus, lirfuas, Aryela, Rína, Aster, But I just would like to add, these are real problems. Davar shelo b'olam, davar she'ein bo mamish, and ribis, that we have in a lot of modern day contracts. And if you're making a contract with your fellow Jew, you have to make sure there's no problem ribis, obviously, no problem davar shelo b'olam, no problem davar she'ein bo mamish. And a service that I offer is the review of contract and writing up, halachic contracts and heter iskas. Please contact me directly if you need help in any of those areas. And all the divrei Torah again should be Lefluas, Aryela, Rína, Bas Esther, for Shlema, for Zguf Tekev Umiyah Betosach Israel.